Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Good morning and welcome. I'd like to say right at the very beginning that the community level of COVID in Toledo, Lucas County is high right now, so you are encouraged to wear a mask for this service today and the fellowship afterwards. These welcoming words are by Marilyn Falkowski. We welcome you. We know you come here for different reasons, to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truths, to nurture your heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of your bigger questions. We welcome you. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our congregation, in our local community, and in our world community. We extend an especially warm welcome to those of you that are visiting today. Please take note of the cards in the hymn rack in front of you. We invite you to complete the yellow card along with your contact information, and we'll send you a copy of our weekly e-news with events and happenings that are going on here at church. Members are invited to complete this form as well and fill out areas that you would like to be more involved with. You're welcome to take the little chalice card home with you. It has important contact information for people here at church. And there's also an envelope for donations and pledge payments. And we thank you in advance for your generous donations. There are some announcements today. Most of you know that we're between music directors. Until we find a new church musician to join our staff, we'll be having recorded music some Sundays and guest musicians when we can arrange it. Today is a combination of recordings generously supplied by Tilden Barger, Reverend Tim's brother, who lives in Minnesota, and Reverend Tim leading the sung parts of our Sunday service. Next week, we'll have an organist who most of you will remember and who grew up in our congregation, Skylar Rady. If you know church musicians who might be possibilities for Toledo Unitarians music director, please make them aware that we're searching. If you'd like to use an assisted listening device to help with hearing our public address system during services, we're now broadcasting on FM 90.7, and we have a couple of small radios with headphones available. This is a radio signal that barely reaches through the building, so it's not a listen from home alternative. Our Toledo Unitarians YouTube channel continues as that source. The Stewardship Committee is in need of more volunteers to assist with having one-on-one conversations with pledging members and friends. We'll train you for this role. In the spirit of many hands make light work, More callers means fewer people for each volunteer to contact, and we want to be able to reach out to as many people as we can. If you would like to help, please come to a training in the Chapek room after church today from 12:30 to 1:30. There's also a Zoom meeting scheduled for Wednesday, September 21st from 7 to 8 p.m. Colette Cordova is chair and Judy Pescalis is co-chair. Please let them know if you're interested. As tomorrow is the third Monday of the month, we remind you that the third Monday breakfast bunch has discontinued. If you want to meet as a group somewhere for breakfast, that's fine, but at this point, it's no longer a regular official Toledo Unitarians activity. We thank Carrie Baum, the most recent organizer, for trying to keep the activity going as we've been recovering from the pandemic. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. is Together Women Rise meeting and potluck dinner here at Fellowship Hall. This month's grantee is Ever Free in Uganda. The meeting is open to all. Please bring a dish to share and your own table service and serving utensils. For more information, see Susan Spiegel, who is here today. Our church is part of multi-faith meditation sessions held in conjunction with Flowing Waters Sangha on Zoom. There are twice-a-month sessions on Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on the second and fourth Sundays, and every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. For the next 2 weeks, the Tuesday sittings include an in-person option in the Carl Sagan room here at church. But beginning in October, they'll return to Zoom only. So 2 more weeks live, and then we'll be on Zoom again. If you need the Zoom number, please contact the church office. This coming Saturday is the day for the monthly meeting of the Awareness of Special Needs group. People with chronic conditions and caregivers are invited to the home of Joanne Hartaw, who is also here today, to share cookies and beverages and talk about their challenges and successes. The meeting goes from 1:30 to 3 p.m. Contact Joanne if you'll be attending. 3 weeks from now, we're providing our grounds and facilities and teaming with the Greater New Psalmist Church next door to host Leonard Peltier's Walk to Justice, a group making a prayerful walk from Minneapolis to Washington, D.C., to plead the release of Leonard Peltier, a Native American elder who has been incarcerated in the federal prison system for 46 years. Their walk is covering more than 1,100 miles, and Toledo is near the halfway point. From about October 9th through the 12th, of special note, that includes Indigenous Peoples Day on the 10th, walkers will stop here for a few days of rest. Besides providing room for them to camp in our backyard, we can help by providing some meals, giving some home hospitality, including the opportunity to take showers, and helping them get to a laundromat. You might know that Leonard Peltier was convicted in 1977 at a controversial trial to 2 life terms to be served consecutively for aiding and abetting murder related to the deaths of 2 FBI agents in a 1975 shooting at Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. There have been allegations of false statements by the government and by witnesses from the time of Peltier's extradition from Canada and continuing through the trial. Witnesses have recanted their testimony. Peltier, who will be 78 years old tomorrow and who has health challenges, has been eligible for parole for almost 30 years. Prominent U.S. and world leaders have called for his clemency. The Walkers hope that his release will happen during President Biden's term in office.
And as we get close to finishing the community aspect that opens our Sunday services, I just need to add one other note that our internet apparently is down, so we are recording the Sunday service and we'll post it later. But unfortunately, I think you might have to pay attention to me rather than tweeting or slyly trying to see what the NFL Today is giving you. So apologies for that. On our minds, in our hearts, and with our spirits, among many other things this day, many mourn Queen Elizabeth II. We consider the ascension to the throne of King Charles III in Great Britain. And some of us will watch the funeral of the Queen early Monday morning, our time. Is the British royal family so different from the families we know or came up with? We continue to be concerned about the Russian invasion and war in Ukraine, as well as political unrest, including persecution in many nations. And here in the United States, we live in the midst of politics and election campaigns. And we work for the promotion of some issues, such as bodily autonomy, and the defeat of others, including exploitation of natural resources. In our own lives and those of friends and family, there are health, relations, financial, and other challenges, including celebrating new lives and mourning deaths. One reason we join in religious gatherings is to realize these common links. Also, this week on Thursday, we will see the autumn equinox and consider once again a change of season. And may we have compassion for all.
The opening words for today from Nature by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Our age is retrospective. It builds the sepulchres of the fathers. It writes biographies, histories, and criticism. The foregoing generations beheld God and nature face to face, we through their eyes. Why should not we also enjoy an original relation to the universe? Why should not we have a poetry and philosophy of insight and not of tradition, and a religion by revelation to us and not the history of theirs?
And as Karen lights our chalice, I have these words from Henry David Thoreau's journal. With all your science, can you tell how it is and whence it is that light comes into the soul?
Now is the time for our covenant, which we will read together. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
So our opening hymn today is number 44 in the Gray Hymnal. We Sing of Golden Mornings. It's a Transcendentalist hymn with lyrics by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I have chosen to save you from my guitar strumming today. And we will attempt to sing this a cappella. We sing of golden mornings, we sing of sparkling seas, of prairies, valleys, mountains, and stately forest trees. We sing of flashing sunshine and life-bestowing rain, of birds among the branches, and springtime come again. We sing the heart courageous, the youthful eager mind. We sing of hopes undaunted, of friendly ways and kind. We sing the roses waiting beneath the deep piled snows. We sing the earth's great splendor, whose beauty round us glows.
Good morning. The story today is called The Star Thrower. It's by Lauren Easley. An old man had a habit of early walks on the beach. One day, after a storm, he saw a human figure in the distance moving like a dancer. As he came closer, he saw that it was a young woman. And she was not dancing, but was reaching down to the sand, picking up a starfish, and very gently throwing them into the ocean. "Young lady," he asked, "why are you throwing starfish into the ocean?" "The sun is up, and the tide is going out, and if I do not throw them in, they will die." "But young lady, do you not realize that there are miles and miles of beach and starfish all along it? You cannot possibly make a difference." The young woman listened politely, paused, and then bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it into the sea, past the breaking waves, saying, "It made a difference for that one." Yoga is defined as a union of individual consciousness with a universal consciousness, or our own awareness merging with all awareness. Its goal is to reach a harmony between our mind and our body, humans and nature. With that in mind, I would like to invite all the children and those who are young at heart to join me outside the sanctuary, where we will do some animal yoga poses today. Again, no cameras allowed.
I will try to demonstrate the sloth position.
Let us know when you start.
join me for our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Our words today are a poem, Questionings, by the Transcendentalist Unitarian minister Frederick Henry Hedge, the only poem he ever wrote. In the Transcendentalists, an anthology of writings by people in the Transcendentalist movement, editor Perry Miller included these words in his preface to the poem. Hedge was not by temperament or profession a poet, but on one sleepless night, riding in the mail coach to Bangor, he watched the stars and upon reaching home wrote down these lines. It is not surprising that even the most scholarly of the Transcendentalists should break into verse. Transcendental doctrine maintained that every man is at least potentially a poet. This is Questionings. Hath this world without me wrought other substance than my thought? Lives it by me sense alone, or by essence of its own? Will its life with mine begun cease to be when that is done? Or another consciousness with the self-same forms impress? Doth yon fireball poised in air hang by my permission there? Are the clouds that wander by but the offspring of mine eye, born with every glance I cast, perishing when it is past? And those thousand eyes scattered through the twinkling skies, do they draw their life from mine, or of their own beauty shine? Now I close my eyes, my ears, and creation disappears. Yet if I but speak the word, all creation is restored. Or more wonderful, within new creations do begin. Hues more bright and forms more rare than reality doth wear, flash across my inward sense, born of the mind's omnipotence. Soul that all informest, say, shall these glories pass away? Will those planets cease to blaze when these eyes no longer gaze? And the life of things be o'er when these pulses beat no more? Thought that in me works and lives, life to all things living gives. Art thou not thyself, perchance, but the universe in trance? A reflection inly flung by that world thou fanciest sprung from thyself a dream, of the world's thinking thou the theme. Be it thus, or be thy birth from a source above the earth, be thou matter, be thou mind, in thee alone myself I find. And through thee alone for me hath this world reality. Therefore in thee will I live, to thee all myself will give, losing still that I may find this bounded self in boundless mind. Let's observe 1 minute of silence. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
This reading is from Summer on the Lakes by Margaret Fuller. All around us lies what we neither understand nor use. Our capacities, our instincts for this, our present sphere, are but half developed. Let us confine ourselves to that till the lesson be learned. Let us be completely natural before we trouble ourselves with the supernatural. I never see any of these things, but I long to get away and lie under a green tree and let the wind blow on me. There is marvel and charm enough in that for me.
I try to give you some points in Unitarian Universalist history in the mix of what I deliver from the pulpit. For this church year, I bring Transcendentalism, a philosophical, literary, and religious movement that's important to Unitarian history and continues to hold relevance today. Transcendentalism ties to the first source of our Unitarian Universalist living tradition, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spiritual and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. I hope you got the direct experience tie in Karen's reading. It might not seem so unusual to us 21st century Unitarian Universalists who are so steeped in religious pluralism, but direct experience as a religious component was very uncommon at the time the Transcendentalists came to prominence nearly 200 years ago. In Unitarian Universalism, A Narrative History, David Bumbaugh, who was one of my professors in seminary and before then was the ministerial intern at First Unitarian Church of Toledo in 1965, and who also served as the minister of First Universalist Church in Lyons, just west of Toledo. David Bumbaugh wrote, Unitarians felt the urge for a deeper spiritual experience, and out of their discontent with liberal Protestantism would emerge the Transcendentalists, as did Henry Thoreau, who took it upon themselves, as did Henry Thoreau, to preach the prospect of awakening or coming to life through the experience of the divine in nature. The Transcendentalists came about through connections to Ralph Waldo Emerson, a public intellectual who had resigned his Unitarian ministry in 1832, based primarily over his objections to the rite of communion. The newest tome on Transcendentalism, The Transcendentalists and Their World by Robert A. Gross, has this on the beginning of the Transcendentalists. When Emerson took up lodgings in Concord, Massachusetts, he was not yet known as a Transcendentalist, nor were other Unitarian ministers and seekers in the Boston area. Elizabeth Palmer Peabody, Orestes Brownson, Frederick Henry Hedge, Theodore Parker, George Ripley, Margaret Fuller, most notably, with whom he would soon be associated. In the early 1830s, the term enjoyed little currency. To the few in the know, chiefly in religious circles, it referred to the idealist philosophy of Immanuel Kant and his heirs, and that was not necessarily a good thing. Owing to the abstraction and unfamiliar terminology of the German writers, transcendental became a byword for obscure, unintelligible, and useless speculation, Gross continues. Nonetheless, continental thinkers had their champions, particularly the English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge and the Scottish essayist Thomas Carlyle. And through their influence, a rising generation of Unitarian clergymen, anxious to revive the spiritual fervor of their denomination, discovered a new way to think about faith. In the process, they took imported ideas in radical directions, exacerbated divisions on the religious landscape, and intensified the movement to expand individual freedom and achieve social equality in New England life. The American movement of Transcendentalism became known from the name Emerson gave to gatherings with those Unitarian ministers and seekers. Here it is in another passage from Gross's book. Emerson welcomed educator Amos Bronson Alcott, the most extraordinary man and the highest genius of his time, according to Emerson, and Margaret Fuller, an extraordinary person for her apprehensiveness, her acquisitions, and her power of conversation, to extended stays at his home, Bush, and he joined with the Transcendentalist ministers Frederick Henry Hedge and George Ripley in September 1836 to launch the informal association of like-minded thinkers that came to be known as the Transcendental Club. One of the most prominent Transcendentalists was Henry David Thoreau, whose approach to direct experience we see pretty well from his autobiographical writing about living in nature in his cabin at Walden, regardless of how close to civilization we consider it now and how frequently he interacted with others. Thoreau's great association was with Emerson. Gross wrote that Thoreau provided a living demonstration of transcendentalist self-reliance. Emerson admired brave Henry for his refusal to conform to conventional ways. He does not postpone life, but lives already. He welcomed my protester into the Transcendentalist Club and never lost an opportunity to promote his protege. The Transcendental Club itself was only active for 4 years, and briefly overlapped with The Dial, magazine edited by Margaret Fuller, which put much transcendentalist thought into print for the general but more educated public, and also lasted only 4 years, 1840 to 44. Transcendentalism wasn't just a segment of Unitarianism, but our open faith, which the Transcendentalists helped to institute, was important for its nurture. Of course, those were only the beginnings of the Transcendentalist movement, which continues, come on, page, which continues with philosophical, literary, and religious descendants today, though not so interpersonally connected as were the first generation Transcendentalists. And with such changes in history, how is Transcendentalism relevant to today? In the 2003 issue of the Journal of Unitarian Universalist History, part of a section on Emerson's bicentennial includes this passage from Emerson's Significance for the 21st Century, an article by Lawrence Buell. In several crucially important ways, Emerson's moment anticipates ours. It, too, was an age of dizzying technological change, indeed the nation's first. This was the takeoff point of industrial revolution in the United States, the first age of what we now call future shock, the point at which it first became inescapably clear that for better or for worse, the pace and contours of one's children's lives would differ markedly from one's own. Emerson, too, felt a sense of unprecedentedly vertiginous social upheaval. To Emerson and many other thoughtful people of his day, the political and the economic order seemed up for grabs. In the mid-19th century, more even than in our time, thinking Americans pondered the twin questions of how much the rest of the world would or should Americanize, and how much the American system of government needed to be reformed in order to live up to its own ideals. None pondered more thoughtfully than Emerson. In the religious sphere, Emerson's generation witnessed, much as ours has, a strikingly pronounced rise of evangelical fervor, the so-called Second Awakening, which created a whipsaw effect on mainstream churches then as now. On the one hand, it threatened to displace serious personal spirituality with mass emotionalism and theological groupthink. On the other hand, it threatened to make mainstream church life look tepid. At the heart of Emerson's complaint against the standard Unitarianism of his day was that he thought it had opted for the worst of both worlds. It had imposed its own forms of liberal dogmatism that had the effect of inhibiting deep personal spirituality. Emerson's wishful thinking, his idea that no one faith tradition or set of religious practices is the only valid path to truth, accomplished some constructive results. For one, it ensured that New England Transcendentalism would become the first movement in U.S. history to take the great religions of Asia seriously. More basic than that, it advanced the idea of religion as process and practice rather than as product or as codification. As Emerson wrote in his journal, I believe in the being God, not in the God that has been. In this series on the Transcendentalists, I'll be quoting publications a lot, kind of a non-transcendentalist thing, rather than giving you my direct experience of those writers and ministers I know. I'm even planning to give a book report sermon next time on Conflagration by John A. Burens, a former president of the Unitarian Universalist Association. His 2020 book on the Transcendentalists' contribution to racial, gender, and social justice. I know that the book report sermon is a form that's sometimes derided for its not engaging the minister's own thoughts. We'll see how that goes. What I don't intend for this Transcendentalists series is dry academia, term papers from the pulpit, but rather I want to spark your interest in this part of our religious history and how that continues to be relevant today. I promise I won't bother you with footnotes and my own lengthy blather. So it goes. So be it.
For our offering today are by Jessica Lynn. I come on Sunday feeling weary, having worn out the snooze button on my alarm clock. I come on Sunday feeling frightened, having seared my eyes reading the latest news. I come on Sunday feeling burdened, having fretted about my workday worries. But I leave Sunday services feeling refreshed, having been renewed by the Spirit of love in the community that exists here. I leave Sunday service feeling whole, feeling lifted up by the words of righteous challenge. I leave Sunday service feeling energized, ready to continue our fight for peace and justice. This haven, this refuge, this place of wonder and worship exists because we make it so with our contributions, the gifts of our time, our skills, our food, our love, our laughter, and our money. Please join me in giving so that we may continue to have a place that fortifies and challenges us in these trying and troubled times. You can give electronically by going to our website, uutoledo.org, click on Give, and then click on Online Giving. Or you can mail a check to First Unitarian Church of Toledo, 3205 Glendale Avenue, Toledo, Ohio 43614. And for those of you that are here in person, there is a basket out on the welcome table that you can leave your contribution there. And we are very grateful for all of your contributions.
me tell you what's coming soon. This coming Sunday's Spiritual Forum at 9:45 a.m. in Fellowship Hall will be a discussion on the pandemic in pictures, moderated by Elliot Adams. And this morning's Spiritual Forum was ready to be finger painting, an intergenerational spiritual forum. We did not have a good turnout for that. I hope you're not afraid of painting. I know that my wife was not able to make it this morning, but she was wondering whether she had to use her own fingers to paint. And so please be open to some of the activities that we'll be having, especially the intergenerational, when we try to put kids and old folks and those of us who might be in between together. And our 11 a.m. service here in the sanctuary next week will be in the space of a year, as next Sunday is also the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year.
Immediately after today's service, I hope you can join us in Fellowship Hall for coffee time and social time. We'd be pleased to answer questions that visitors have about our church, and we'll enjoy spending time with people new to us and familiar friends. Closing words today are from Walden by Henry David Thoreau. Simplify, simplify. That's it. I have a T-shirt with those words on it that I purchased at the gift shop at Walden Pond many years ago, and I thought about wearing that today, but it's a little frayed around the edges, and I wasn't comfortable doing that.
And you didn't want to give away the ending of this service.
That's right.
As we send the flame from our chalice into the community, consider it in a transcendentalist way. We know what fire is, its material and empirical existence, but we also see the dancing flame. That fire transcends our rationality to have kind of a spiritual form. May we have those here and everywhere components as well.